remarks, and now call upon Alex Rodriguez to deliver the first speech aside opposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hate to tell you this, the side proposition's been lying to you. What we heard today is they said that China's rising and America's falling. And that is blatantly untrue. So instead of the rigmarole that usually starts a speech, I'm going to start off right with our first pillar. Ladies and gentlemen, China has some serious competition. In fact, we're looking specifically at the United States of America. Side proposition has me believe that America is in its end days, and that China is already coming to its full power as a nation. Ladies and gentlemen, that's blatantly untrue. There's lots of areas where we can compare these countries, and me and my partner, when we were doing some research, we Googled comparing China and America, and we found an article by The Economist and an article by The Guardian. We took some stats from that. We're going to give them to you now. So let's look at economics. Ladies and gentlemen, the GDP of the United States is 2.5 times the size of China. The per capita income of the United States is 12 times the size of China. The government expenditures of the United States is 3 times the size of China, and the market capitalization of America is 4 times the size of the Chinese markets. How about, let's look at natural resources, ladies and gentlemen. The American natural gas reserves are 7 times the size of China. Their oil production is twice the size of China. Their oil reserves are 3 times the size of China, and they have more farmland and fresh water. Or how about we can look at the demographics. Ladies and gentlemen, China has a lot of people. The people aren't very useful. We see that the Chinese have only half as many city dwellers, and the Americans have twice as long of life expectancy. And one really important thing that I'm going to get into further on is the Chinese have a net emigration rate. People come into America because they love it, because it's free. People leave China because people don't like it. They have a net rate of people leaving the country because people would rather be anywhere else than in that country. And now maybe let's look at the military, ladies and gentlemen. The military budget of America is 8 times that of China. They have more tanks. They have twice as many fighters, twice as many destroyer-class vessels. They have 60 times the number of nuclear weapons. And ladies and gentlemen, under all this destruction, all these different areas, America has lower corruption, lower pollution, and lower suicide rates. Ladies and gentlemen, the American empire is not over. In order for China to become the dominant power of the 21st century, as side proposition is asserted, they would need to take over a majority of these categories, not just one. And they're not going to do that, as we're going to show you in our next 2 points. So now that we've made that clear, yes indeed.
Even if it wasn't true, China is the dominant economic power. The Soviet Union had 1/6 of the GDP of the United States, and they were fighting the Cold War for 50 years.
That's accurate. Ladies and gentlemen, who won the Cold War?
That's a good point.
So now, I'm going to start signing things out for you so that we can actually get this properly set up. Firstly, we're talking about our 3 pillars. The first one I already named to you is competition. We can't look at China in a vacuum, ladies and gentlemen. We have to compare it to other countries. The second one is social mistakes. When we talk about all the social problems that their massive growth has caused, they will slow them down in the near future. And then political mistakes, which is what my partner will talk about. And then it's going to be obviously the same thing, but from a political perspective. Before that, though, let's clash with what that proposition said. So they started off by giving us this argument about structure, and basically their argument went as follows: dictatorship beats democracy. And we don't find that a strong argument on that opposition. And they really give us 3 sort of arguments for this. The first is that they avoid bubbles. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't set opposition in the sense that bubbles are not a bad thing. In our world today, our capitalist structures sometimes take risks. They take big risks. You know what? Sometimes those risks screw up. Sometimes they mess up. But they're free to do it. And sometimes those risks pay off big. Ladies and gentlemen, they would say that America is creating bubbles and therefore their country is falling. However, the American rise came just after the Great Depression, the largest bubble of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, bubbles are not a harm, but rather a sign that we're supporting innovation and running at the edge of what is possible, as opposed to hypocrisy, which always stays behind the curve. Their second argument was that we were going to be ending rights, basically. That we can remove people's rights and we can have that, quote, execute people who are corrupt. Ladies and gentlemen, China doesn't just execute the people who are corrupt. They execute all sorts of people, not the least of which other political enemies. And what we see is that this system actually is very bad for them. Yes, they can make big decisions, but you know what? They drive away their intellectuals, because the intellectuals don't want to get in trouble for saying something that they believe, but the government doesn't support. They drive away innovation because they stifle the internet. They stifle new learning. fact, 9 of the 10 largest economies in the world today are democracies, ladies and gentlemen, because the democratic system is better, unlike the side proposition we had in the meeting. And finally, the last argument was that, well, we have local governments. You know what? The America has local governments too. That doesn't even really participate at all. And then we heard about foreign policy. And my partner's going to talk to you a lot more about that. But our basic flash to that is China has poor friends, they have weak friends, and their friends don't like them very much, the ones that they do have. And he's going to talk a lot more about that in this speech. So now let's get on to our material. I already gave our first point. China has some big competition out there. They're certainly not the world's dominant power right now. Now we get to our second point, social mistakes. We talked about how the Chinese growth has created a bunch of other problems, which will mean they can never become the leaders of the 21st century. So there's lots and lots of mistakes they made. And basically, I'm going to get into a couple of them, and I'm just going to tell you about the others, because I don't have time to tell you about all the things China's done wrong. So let's start with demographics. China has a one-child policy. It seemed like a good idea at the time. But economists are now forecasting that one-child policy will cost the Chinese 400 million people within the next 50 years. I'll take you in a second. And what we see is that this is actually going to harm their labor and their ability to compete on the international market.
And the Americans are facing the baby boom crisis. Are China and America not on an equal playing field in this sense?
Ladies and gentlemen, they really aren't. China is also facing the baby boom crisis. However, they are having a far larger demographic collapse that's going to be caused. Because what we simply see is that Chinese can't have children. Because in a large way, not only do they have a smaller generation now, but this generation has no women. And this generation with no women will not be able to have as many children. And almost 400 million, which is half the population of China currently, will be lost to their mistake of the one-child policy. And so this demographic collapse will definitely hurt. In fact, if you talk to the Beijing's branch of the Brookings Institute, an institute for the study of China, the specific one, they say China will probably lose 50% of its growth due to the decreasing labor supply on its own, not including anything else. The problem is that China's had its growth fueled by a lot of cheap labor, and that's going to decrease. It's the same problem that caused a large part of Japan's decline. We see that demographics are going to be a big issue for China in the future. But we can look at social inequality, ladies and gentlemen. And I have a great quote for you about social inequality from a rather reliable source, the World Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, the World Bank says that China's growth will soon halt unless they start sorting out the massive economic inequality that they're facing. It's one of the most unequal countries in the world, with a large majority of the population making around $1.25 a day, while some of the population lives in first world luxury. What we see is that this is creating social unrest, and this social unrest is creating protests and creating all sorts of problems for China's labor economies. And so there's social inequality will also. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not just these two problems that I've had a chance to tell you about. China also has problems, environmental problems. They also have educational problems, both of which they've neglected in their aim to get more growth, and will end up with unsustainable growth in the future. And they also have a vast number of political problems, which my partner will get into. So, ladies and gentlemen, what have we heard today? We've heard that China is not yet even comparable to America. And we've heard that, yes, well, they have amazing growth. That amazing growth is fueled by unsustainability. And that this unsustainability has created a large number of social problems which will stop China in the very near future. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, China will not rule this century.